Hello. Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining today. We are going to have some fun. We're going to be talking tech. We're going to be getting, I think, into one of the most interesting topics of the next version of the internet. And we have Human Protocol here today, and I'm Jack O'Halloran, the CEO of SKALE Labs and one of the founders of the SKALE Network. And maybe Lonnie and Harry, you could give a quick intro, and then we'll kick this off.
Hey, I'm Lonnie Rae. I run operations at Human Protocol. Spent the last 5 years as the CEO of a company called Metal. They were acquired last year by a large healthcare data company. And then actually this morning, they announced a big merger. So excited to be here with you guys. Love running operations.
Awesome.
Hi guys, I'm Harry. I manage engineering over at Human Protocol. My background is in basically serial entrepreneur, running my own companies, mostly in the misinformation privacy space. A couple of them have exited, and now, yeah, full-time managing the whole tech department at Human Protocol, building the cool products that we'll be speaking about later.
Awesome. Thanks, Harry. Thanks, Lons. Thanks, Lonnie. So, hey, I'm particularly excited today. We're at this point in the evolution of the internet where it's not just Web 2, it's not just big companies, GAFA running the services we use. We're actually getting more decentralized ownership, more involvement from more and more people. And I think Human Protocol is one of the most phenomenal use cases and topics when it comes to this transformation of the internet. So I think a good way to kick this off, Lons, is to go in the first question of the AMA, which we've fielded a lot of questions. We've got, we've picked some good ones from the list. And if you have other questions, add them to the questions tab. But let's just get right into it. So let's take a look at the big picture here with Human Protocol. And Lons, can you talk about the problem you're solving and just kind of the vision here?
So it's a really exciting time, and I'm really excited to be working in blockchain because I think it's one of the first times that I'm really seeing these decentralized protocols truly competing with the last generation of companies and organizations that were building some of these technologies. So what Human Protocol does is powers decentralized marketplaces where people can request and contribute virtual work across the blockchain. That's really neat, whether you're an individual person trying to complete a task, or if I'm like a big company and I'm building, for example, a self-driving car, and I need to request like billions of data points, or I need to employ or work with like 40,000 people to locate and understand like some data that will allow me to do this. And what Human Protocol does is makes it really easy to set all that up, to be able to contract, hire, pay, manage the teams, and then verify the answers and the work quality meeting those requirements and providing that end-to-end infrastructure. And then for the people doing the work, it makes it a lot easier to be able to complete the work to spec and then manage kind of compensation and things like that.
Awesome. Exciting. I mean, it's combining the best of multiple technologies and taking strengths of humans, taking strengths of computers, and then taking strengths of modern, decentralized symmetrical databases, i.e. blockchains, and combining them to solve some big problems. That's incredibly exciting. So, and hey, today, right, I think there's a big announcement today, but can we talk about proof of humanity? What is it, and what is the problem it solves, Harry?
Yeah, so Proof of Humanity is a very cool sounding name, first of all, to begin with, so I'm very excited about this. So in our initial experiments with the Ethereum blockchain, we noticed that front running was becoming a massive problem. That means bots interacting with applications which requires a KYC for governance and was just severely limiting the full capacity of the blockchain. So we thought, like, why should this be happening, right? If we can have traditional captchas for traditional interactions on the internet, why can't we bring that over to the blockchain as well? So what we have built, the Proof of Humanity, is essentially a plugin for any third-party wallets. What it does is it validates transactions that are, so when your wallet and the D app is interacting, it validates that the transactions are actually performed by a human through a captcha system. So very excited to speak about this because literally the first place we are announcing it today. So we have done our first integration with MetaMask, which is as of now live on labs.humanprotocol.org. So you guys can go check it out. It's essentially a developer tool, but we are planning future integrations with other third-party wallets. So yeah, very excited for to see where it goes.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so today, uh, you've been working on this for a really long time, and it's always like, I know how this feels, and you announce something to the world, just announced proof of humanity. Could you talk a little bit about the difference specifically between proof of humanity and the human wallet, Harry? Just kind of, I think people want a little more education and how these things are nuanced and different.
Sure. Like in a nutshell, I would say the proof of humanity is basically a development tool to prevent front running on applications running on blockchain. The human wallet is essentially the portal to the human experience. So it's going to be a one-stop solution where users, be it requesters or workers, to sign in to different applications that are running on the human protocol network, to find new jobs that are basically being posted on the different applications on the human protocol, get paid quickly, and basically provide a unified place for them to gain their reputation. So if certain specific tasks require certain kind of reputations, we control that all in the human wallet. Uh, there's also one more thing that the human wallet could become in the future is rather than actually requesters using APIs to upload jobs on the protocol, we can see it becoming like, one-stop dashboard where requesters just fund the jobs, create the jobs and upload it onto the network. Yeah, and I guess, yeah. And if you want
Awesome.
to know more about it, I think we've just published another article going much more into the details of the human wallet. So please visit our blog on humanprotocol.org/blog and you'll find more details there.
Okay, it looks like we've got a link to it too from MS Hash. Thanks, MS, for putting that in the chat. All right, thanks, Harry.
That is the proof of humanity link.
There's
just
also
careful
another
again,
one
the
on the wallet
distinction.
that'll.
Oh, okay.
plan.
Yeah.
We'll get that up too. Okay, great. All right, so next question here for you, Lawns. All right, many in the community are interested in the application of AI and blockchain, and I know your team has discussed, I think, in many details about data labeling as a hybrid function between AI and human workers, and by the way, both Lawns and I have long track records of working in AI. I worked for almost a decade, and Lawns worked for a very long time as well. And actually, both of us in healthcare and life science. And so I know this is a topic very, very near and dear to your heart. So can you talk a little bit about the, data labeling as an incentivized task and human protocols approach?
Yeah, so it's really this collection of distributed tasks, and there is this synergy as you're working together with an AI. And so I think that it's really interesting to be able to distribute the more interesting tasks to people, to humans, and then to have some of the more repetitive tasks or the tasks that are kind of more certain and easy to be things that you distribute and let like an AI take off your hands. One thing that's pretty cool and that we actually really saw in the last company where I worked and was the CEO was that we actually got much better answers than either humans or AIs could get alone. And that ended up being really important, especially because we were at that time, working in understanding and clarifying healthcare data. And one thing that was pretty neat about that is that with the merger that they ended up announcing this morning, I believe that technology is now the largest used technology for reading unstructured medical data now in the United States. So, it certainly was a lesson that we learned in terms of how you can have a better outcome by collaborating.
Very, very cool. It reminds me of this story, like the I think it was Gary Kasparov, or one of the top chess players in the world, right? And
I love this one.
And it's like, so you took the best chess player in the world and the best AI, and like finally the AI could beat the chess player, but then you took an average chess player and an AI, and they could beat either one handily, like every time. And so combining these strengths of humans and machines absolutely destroys either option alone. And that's
we were just talking about, like, Harry and I were just talking about this before the call. It's one of my favorite like AI collaboration stories.
Yeah, when I was, it was like 2009, and I was selling machine learning into like these big enterprises, and it was all human machine collaboration, and these IT directors and like heads of sales and marketing be like, well, I don't need a computer to teach my people what to do. It's like, no, it's about collaboration. But what we have with human protocol is we have that, but then we're combining incentive structures that are decentralized and community owned, right? With blockchain, that kind of takes it to the next level.
Yeah, that is like, I think the goal and the vision is really over time to continue upon this path and to create more and more collaboration is really, part of what we hope to accomplish, or what I hope to accomplish. So, yeah.
Yeah, which I actually think it's a very good segue into the next question, just around, how is human protocol different from a bounty system? So we think about bounty systems as just being like maybe more of an isolated, one-off thing. You post a job and people can come compete with bounty, but this is very different. Can you kind of go into more of the nuances of what this is and how that compares to bounties?
Yeah, it's really all about objective measurement. And you think about it in terms of if the people who are doing tasks actually agree with one another, and then also if there's variation in that across different areas or different cultures or different languages or things like that. And so because there is such a large system and it's already serving over 270 countries and territories, you can answer and ask questions in different areas and test those assumptions. So what you're doing is really, you have the potential to ask questions across the globe in search of variation in the truth, in search of what is the ground truth, and in search of trying to understand what is the accuracy and the precision, and how are you getting to and validating the quality of an answer.
Excellent. And it seems like there's also there's a level of efficiency. So it seems like you can go deeper, but you're kind of programming this whole structure, right? It doesn't need all these bespoke things. Every time you set up a bounty, it's like there's just mass amounts of coordination and setup. And I mean, can you speak a little bit more to the efficiency? Because I think that's undervalued broadly, the way blockchains can automate things.
Harry, you want to take that? You set a lot of that up.
Yeah, I mean, like not too specific about the blockchain here. I mean, this bounty system, as you said, Jack, like the whole management, everything is so complicated. What we're trying to do basically here is essentially create an end-to-end pipeline, where we can take care of the job creation, job distribution, answer verification or solution verification, and the payments. And doing that as a combination of some on-chain data, some using our Oracle systems in a completely decentralized manner. I think it's an offering I don't think any other product is even coming close to giving.
And in enterprise work and in these organizations, you see that it's a problem that you see over and over and over again, that making it as close to plug and play as you can to make it as easy as possible to set up and launch a variation of a job or a new set of jobs or things like that. And then interacting and making use of the same, instead of having to set up the same thing over and over and over again and reinvent the wheel every time, making it so that you can utilize those resources and have a more distributed collective group that's able to interact.
Yeah, and I think that's some of my experience, especially all my time working with enterprise. A big learning for me was going in and getting groups of humans, one, to not just align to do something, but to get them to align on the process and how they do it, and setting up all these different component parts. And you talk about like marketplaces and like systems, and this is just like you point the problem at the system and you just save so much in setup. And bounty programs, my feeling is a lot of them are very bespoke and just like one-off, and they just don't get this kind of immersive efficiency with these decentralized efforts and results. So this is, I'm excited about it.
Quality assurance becomes a massive manual problem there in existing bounty systems, if you think about it, right? What's the arbitraging process? Who gets the deciding factor? There are issues between the requesters and the people solving, and if you can just automate that entire process, you can verify that there is a quality that you're going to get out of the job. It just eases both parties, like the minds of both parties involved.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. And just like a labor force ready to roll. That's well incentivized. It's very cool. Okay. And by the way, quick note to the audience. So in the questions tab, please put your questions there. We'll be pulling from there. And another reminder, we're here talking about tech. We're talking about use cases. So keep the questions focused on those things as opposed to, other financial components. Because, yeah, okay. So please get them going because we'll be going your direction relatively soon. All right, Harry. So one, I think, very cool thing about Human Protocol is you've announced a number of, blockchain partnerships. You've announced a few already. And could you give a little bit more of the strategy there where you're able to, kind of load balance across these different partnerships and maybe talk to a little bit about how SKALE will help in that equation?
Definitely. So, Jack, initially, like when we started building this out and trialing it over the Ethereum network, we just saw that like the whole microtransaction kind of architecture we want to have, high throughput, low latency, just wasn't meeting it, you know? And so we went back to the drawing board and we just evaluated ourselves. Why do we have to just make one chain the bottleneck, right? We can ideally, based on different types of jobs and different types of tasks coming in, we can distribute the load over multi-chains and actually leverage the unique features and unique pros of individual chains to meet the requirements that we have. So yeah, as you were right, we have disclosed partnerships with projects like Chainlink, Polkadot, Solana, obviously Scales, among others. And internally, we have tried to make it so that any new chain coming onto a platform trying to be a part of Human, their onboarding journey is seamless. We have got templates for the core contracts that we have to write. We give support to these teams to just port over these contracts for the more technical people out there, if you understand it. Otherwise, yeah, I'll just say as well, we have done something very interesting in the sense we have API'd the whole interaction with the blockchain. So we have developed an interface so that multiple applications can be onboarded very quickly and can actually almost run not caring about which chain is underlying. You know, our
Yep.
internal systems, our internal validator systems, and Oracle systems decide where to put things in. Uh, and see, scale was a short way. Like there was not even a question about which first couple of chains we have to go to. Scale was the top candidate there. I mean, the Ethereum compatibility, big plus. High throughput, high transaction rates, low latency. I mean, it being proof of stake was awesome. The whole leaderless consensus program you had just, ticks all the boxes. Plus the Byzantine fault tolerance that you had built in. So just a very cool product, very easy to integrate with. And yeah, like in terms of the transactions we could process just on the trial runs that we were doing, it's phenomenal the difference that we had in the just, Ethereum specific chain and what we're doing with Scale now.
Hey, that's really, really great to hear. I'll say when we set out to build SKALE in 2017, and hey, it takes a long time to build something of this magnitude and complexity and and interoperability. But we did it with the goal of helping projects and communities achieve huge scale in their efforts. And one of the cool things about Human Protocol is, one, there's a really big vision, and there's already incredible traction and just action happening with the product. But the other piece is, I think it's really helping take the internet to this next level of sophistication and kind of like ownership, right? And that's also something we were passionate about. So the SKALE team's very excited and just looking forward to seeing all the success of Human Protocol in the community. So, okay, awesome. All right, so let's talk. You mentioned Chainlink, who is also a partner of SKALE, and I've known the Chainlink team for another really motivated, purpose-driven team that's been. I think Sergey got the domain name smartcontract.com in 2014 or something. So clearly an early adopter. Can you talk a little bit about the Chainlink integration and how Human Protocol works with Chainlink?
Yeah. So as I was saying earlier, there has to be a balance of the amount of data that's stored on chain and off chain. And just because of the logistics of developing on a chain, right, you do not want unnecessary information slowing the network down. So obviously, for certain parts of a system, we wanted information that we necessarily didn't want to store on the chain. So we went out into the market and looked for what can be a good Oracle system, and or like network Oracle network orchestrating system. And again, as I said, like Chainlink was up there. Good community, great documentation, solid tech. So yeah, we decided to use it to orchestrate our validator and like Oracle systems. So the validator network is basically that provides a decentralized network that provides content moderation, content sanitation before the jobs are uploaded onto the protocol. Oracles provide like faster payments, answer quality verification, and Chainlink just provides the underlying infrastructure for us to rapidly build those systems out. I mean,
Mm.
in the proof of humanity that we were talking about earlier, uh, we utilized Chainlink as well. It was kind of our trial project that we did with Chainlink, and
Mhm.
phenomenal. Like if we can orchestrate captures inside wallets on that scale through Chainlink, yeah, the product's got my vote, and yeah, really exciting to develop with them.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting because I think there's like two sides of CAPTCHA too. One thing that's like really interesting is, a use that I've seen. We have applications that run on human protocol that are already processing like billions of transactions a month and hundreds of millions of users, which is pretty cool. And some of the use cases and things you see are like, I guess one example would be like a fashion drop. So like new pair of sneakers drops, people want to get it, and then it's like overrun with bots, and so they can't actually get in. And what they like may not completely appreciate is that it's actually that CAPTCHA that allows them to still get in and be part of that, as opposed to the entire thing getting taken over. And this is also now we're seeing that happen on blockchain, and especially this kind of Web 3.0, and as things are starting to migrate and change, there's a reason why we utilize these types of technologies across the internet and Web 2.0, and why these types of technologies and how they're going to evolve, we see them as being really important for Web 3.0 as well. And that's a key reason why some of these architectural decisions are being made, is really to support and understand and work with the demand and the types of applications that the protocol needs to support.
Yeah,
I mean, we need
and
to
I
develop
hear about
with the
these.
products that are,
Oh, go ahead, Harry. Sorry.
I was just saying we need to develop with products that are smart as well, because as the Web 3.0 revolution is coming, like even the programs that deter actually nice interface with the Web 3.0 get smarter as well. So it's always a cat and mouse problem here. You have to kind of work with the cutting edge technologies always to keep on top of them.
Yeah, yeah. You get good, and then these people they build workarounds to keep trying
Yeah,
cat and mouse.
yeah.
I've heard of these sneaker launches where people buy bots to just run these bots to try to get these bids in, and they do all this front running trying to get their bid in to buy the sneaker, and then they're just going to take the sneaker and sell it. Like they're not even going to wear the sneaker. It's just a financial thing, and so they're like botting and front running, and then the whole website crashes, and you can't run the auction. And so that's, I think, a really good use case. And I want to ask another question, just because I think we've got time, and the community is coming up with more good questions. So can you give what are some other like cool, like real world examples already that we see, in addition to like fashion drops that you're seeing out there?
Well, I saw a comment on here, which is kind of cool, which someone just mentioned, talking about potentially the future and like how that might end up applying someday to NFTs. So I think that's actually a really neat potential application to understanding how as this entire ecosystem evolves and grows, how some of this might shift. I think there's a lot of examples and things that you end up seeing, everything from, denial of service to takedowns to like, you see you're trying to use some sort of an exchange or something, and there could be someone who's trying to actually aggressively impact that exchange. And a lot of those things are actually, protected behind the scenes by technologies like this. And then on the other side of it, you see kind of this data labeling and collaboration and the types of jobs that we might be doing in coordination with with AI. So, at a simple level, what I did at my last company was being able to understand and read complex medical data. And that, the purpose of that was to be able to improve diagnostics, because it's really hard to improve diagnostics if you can't understand what's in the data itself. So the first thing is, if you had a record and it said Mr. Huntington lives on Huntington Street and has Huntington's disease, if you can't say what his problem or his diagnosis is, you can't run an accurate AI to help him, or to remove his identity. So this was something that I had previously worked on, but learned a lot about the ways in which you really want to collaborate, and how this type of technology, in terms of data labeling, can apply to different types of problems, whether they are images, whether they are related to language, whether they are related to things like translation. A lot of languages, when you look at countries and places that are coming online, they don't always have native web in their language. And those are emerging markets for many, many organizations, as well as making sure that those places maybe in the future have better access to the web 3.0. And so there's a lot of different things that you can actually utilize the same basic type of technology for, and where we're really excited to see and support and work with and collaborate with community to continue to build and explore more applications, with the goal of having this be a very simple rail that you plug into, so that it's easy to kind of work with new types of jobs.
Awesome. Really, really cool. I mean, and we're just scratching the surface too. I feel like it's these things, and a lot of problems before, I think people lived with them because it just didn't feel like there was a cost-effective technology approach to go get the answer. And you look at like unstructured databases, and there's a lot of those out there.
Yeah, and you can't just like take one and hook it up to another. So the simple task of being able to figure out that data structure and move it, simple task.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And Harry, did you want to add to that, or?
Yeah, actually, I was just going to up-level it a bit and more like answer more from a blockchain perspective, like our industry perspective. I think a good example of the whole proof of humanity thing kicking in my mind is DeFi markets. So DeFi exchanges, where bots are known to basically kind of capitalize on certain liquidity pools to boost prices, boost transaction fees. I think if on these platforms you have something like proof of humanity working, bam, the platforms become so much more efficient, and you will not have this liquidity issues that you face from, and which is the biggest critique of DeFi industries at this level.
That was actually, I think, one of the top upvoted questions thus far from Dariante. Will there be,
okay.
Are there any mergers, or I think collaboration of human protocol and DeFi? Maybe we'll just answer that now, just because it's pertinent.
Yeah,
I mean, we are exploring opportunities.
Okay.
We are definitely looking into
We don't
this
have to go
market.
deep there. Yeah, I think because okay.
Yeah,
If there's
I
any like
think
high
for
level
proof of
things you want to talk
humanity,
about.
I think
yeah, so this was it actually, Jack. You want to
yeah.
go, Lonnie?
Oh, I was gonna say, I think
Okay.
where we could, or one of the places that we have been talking about a lot is what is next that we're going to be announcing, and kind of the roadmap stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's keep going because we're talking about roadmap. All right. Okay. Well, I'm going to go to the
Sure.
next question in the list here, and actually, this one is again, I think going more deeper for Harry on scaling. So, what are some of the most could you consolidate some of the most important features that you look for in a blockchain scaling solution? What are critical things that are important?
Yeah. Without going too technical about it, I think having no transaction fees or gas fees, or having at least caps on gas fees, are very important, especially as we want to, as more of protocol, products in our generation of blockchain products are moving towards microtransactions rather than batching transactions and so on and so forth. So I think, yeah, gas fees, caps on gas fees, how much data you can store on a particular blockchain. As I said, it's not very paramount, but it still plays a big part. The high throughput, low latency should be there. I think this is this is not a vision of what the human protocol would say, but personally, I would say moving towards platforms that are greener in their running nature is very important as well,
Yeah.
right? Like as we are slowly like, moving towards away from proof of like work to proof of staking algorithms. That is the future, like proof of history, which and some other properly proofs, but proof of stake has been known to, be the best front runner in this. So looking at that is very important for me personally when I'm deciding to use a technology. And when we looked at scale, just checked all the boxes. Technically, developing smart contracts has to be a breeze on top of a chain because
Mhm.
again, this is not a totally financial ecosystem. We are redefining how the internet operates. And if blockchains are the operating system on which the internet operates, we
Mhm.
need an easy way to access those operating system level things, right? So yeah, just to reiterate, high throughput, low latency, uh, faster, like capped gas payments, I would say, good smart contracting language, tooling available there, good community support. And if we can do it, then a greener way of running blockchains.
Yeah. Yeah. The green thing, I think, I think it kind of proof of stake had a lot of advantages that weren't green. Just many advantages. There's just a lot of efficiencies,
Mhm.
and it makes sense. It's like pretty simple. I think a lot of people can understand. You put money on the line, and if you act bad, you lose the money. And when you get into proof of work,
Yeah.
there's a lot. There's like more complexity, but then at the end of the day, like
Yeah.
you know, energy is energy. It's like we're burning massive amounts of energy. And hey, I'm a a fan of Bitcoin and have been for a very long time. But I'm also like,
Mhm.
when it comes to running big chunks of the internet, like I think we see with human protocol, like it's really nice to be able to do that in a way that doesn't require like fossil fuel to be burned, right?
I mean, yeah, there's always going to be a trade-off you're going to make, right? But if we can, through technology, and that's all of this is about, right? Through innovation, through like proper cutting-edge research, we know there are possible ways and better alternatives in some ways, right?
Mhm.
Then why not embrace it? And I love Scale here because of the whole proof of stake approach that you guys have done, and like you had the whole four vision in the beginning. So yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Great answer. All right. Well, we talked about this earlier. Well, what's next for human protocol on the roadmap, Harry?
Yeah, so there are quite a few exciting things we are working on. I'm just going to divide them into like four different verticals. First of all, obviously, is the human wallet. We've been talking about the protocol a lot, the different applications, what it does in a cool manner. But we want to give people that portal to, access the protocol actually, and in a very tangible way, so that, people who are not even that tech savvy can do that. So a single dashboard, manage your HMT, manage your payments, manage your jobs, get your reputation in line, and access and make some money. Access the jobs and make some money. So the human dashboard is there. We've also been talking about different tools that we use essentially. So two big ones of them are Intel CVAT, which is a like image video annotation platform, and Inception, which is a textual annotation platform. So we have been running these on various test nets and some mainnets, and basically pushing them out to the wider public on these different chains that we have been working with is something that we're doing this year. Obviously, launching the reworked validator and Oracle system, which I touched earlier with the Chainlink stuff. So there's more information about these things on the blog. And yeah, last but not the least is proof of humanity on more third-party wallets.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Well, hey, I think that was a phenomenal set of questions we had received in advance. We're going to start digging into some live questions. And actually, I want to throw one out here, okay? Because this is a fun one, and this one's for
Mhm.
me. How do you describe human protocol to somebody who average internet user, not super technical, like how do you like kind of like give this like, very simple, non-buzzwordy, description of what human protocol does? 'Cause I think, yeah.
I saw another question here too, which was asking how it's different from like LinkedIn or an individual job. And I think that the answer is kind of like that it's Upwork on steroids. It's the ability to do granular tasks. So it's not, I think the future of work in many ways is the ability to have that flexibility. And that's something that I think, is something that human protocol is designed for.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's all, sometimes it's good to use an analogy, right? And for like people listening, Upwork, like you can put these jobs on Upwork that are usually like, it's like kind of like, hey, come to our website and help, fix these 3 things, or can you parse through this, do this research for me. I used to put all these research jobs on Upwork, but human protocol I guess you can get far more granular in terms of those jobs and jobs that require maybe more people and more precision. Is that fair?
Yeah, and because
precision and do you want to go, Lonnie?
We'll both go. It's. I think you're hitting the nail right on the head. It's about the objectivity, and it's about the ability to actually look for variation and do it on a larger scale, which is really interesting, and is a big part of why I'm excited to be part of this team.
Awesome.
Harry,
Harry, go ahead and add to that if you want.
No, it's okay. Lonnie covered all the bases.
Yeah. The analogies are great for talking about tech. It's really good. Here's another good one. Just this is from Yuri. Apart from CAPTCHAs, what other tasks can be performed by human protocol to teach AIs? And I know we already addressed a lot of this, but it'd be good to like go in again on that.
We've been talking about the desire to build a suite of tasks. And so I think there's quite a few, but I'll leave it to Harry to say which ones he's excited about.
I mean, you can, like we've designed protocol in a way that at the end of the day, any fungible human task can be operated on it, right? Any task. But we are starting with a very ML-oriented focus for now. So that means with platforms like CVAT at inception, it could be image labeling, video labeling, and that can be as granular as you want, like how deeply do you want the image labeled? You can do A/B testing, which is very exciting as well. With the inception, which is a textual processing, translation works get simpler. Like summarization is a big industry right now with people on the move always, like in their heads at least. And these kind of jobs can be supported by Inception. And there's one personal one actually that we've not explored that much, but I've been thinking about exploring that much is Lidar. So CVAT just introduced Lidar support. And as we know, the whole smart car industry is booming, and just not smart car industry, but the AR, VR industry is booming. And there's a big need for actually good annotated Lidar data. And soon we will be through in CVAT, we will be able to do that. So yeah, these are very exciting things. And
Intel's platform has been adding some of the support for those tools, which is pretty cool. And I think only in the next year or two, it's likely that we'll see, some of these big companies and organizations launch more self-driving cars, more AR glasses, more VR headsets. And as that continues, like what Harry's saying with the point cloud and Lidar data is likely to become even more important than it is today. I think, I've heard people in the community propose everything from, essentially like Fiverr type tasks to, the types of applications that they've imagined building for, I think someone I recently heard propose that they wanted to explore whether or not they could build something for like influencer rewards. And just kind of hearing some of these kind of community ideas for how they would use that core infrastructure of posting a job and then having, someone be able to access that job board based on their reputation. It's very interesting to kind of hear the ideas.
Yeah, so can you unpack that a little bit? I think I'm, just love to kind of understand them. Like, so training LiDAR data, like kind of unpack that process. Like how does that flow into human protocol, just for, because I think these are the things that, you know, even myself, I'm like, tell me a little bit more about that. And it helps me understand more of the power of the system and the technology.
So yeah, let me just run you through how it would look like in a
Yeah.
very high level way. Usually these kind of training tasks go to certain kind of different BPOs, which are, you know, big agencies with big worker pools, right? So what would happen is, say there's a requester, a young startup, let's say here, who probably doesn't have enough money to go to, say, the BPO. I mean, that's a separate market we can talk about later. But say a young startup who's working in the smart car industry, they have somehow gathered enough LiDAR data. And now they basically want this annotated in particular ways. So they will come to the human platform dashboard. They will upload their data set. They will say, these are the kind of parameters we want the LiDAR data to look like. This is kind of the shape of data we want to look like.
Mhm.
This data, after being put on the human protocol network, will get matched to relevant workers with skills in image annotation, LiDAR annotation, so on and so forth. So these workers, now shifting to the worker side will go on their human wallet app. They will see, oh, based on my skills, I can see some LiDAR data here. They will click this job link. It will automatically take them into Intel CVAT, where this data set is loaded. All they have to do is just then label it, click submit. The verification of the answer quality happens in the background. The requester, this young startup, gets their annotated data. The workers get the money. Simple.
That's cool. I mean, it's just, thank you. I think that's really helpful, just understanding this process. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. So, okay, another question I see here from Blue. HCAPTCHA is a very useful tool. Can you, and we're talking a lot about this, so I think it's, you know, we've already covered this, but try, you know, we'll go one more time. Can you give the best example, as much as possible, of a new use case that for human protocol? Like any new use cases? I mean, we just talked about a few, but anything else there worth addressing? Or
So I think there's a lot that we've been exploring in the background, but I think it's important not to jump too far ahead. I think Harry's given a really good summary of the things that are on our immediate roadmap. And yes,
Right.
HCAP is like a household name. A lot of people will have used them. They're definitely one of the first applications that have been using the protocol, and you know, they have you know, very significant you know, number of labels and transactions and things happening. So the ones that we've announced have been Inception, which does text translation, text labeling. And I've worked with platforms like that in other industries. It ends up being very relevant for things like data labeling, data indexing, that can be foundational to things like building other types of AI. And that Inception platform is actually a next generation platform, very similar to platforms that are like industry gold standard in multiple industries that are using these to annotate technical data. And right now, the process of getting that data, there's tons and tons and tons of people who are already using similar platforms or using that platform itself. And that can be, it's really difficult to get these people, train them, onboard them, get the data quality, et cetera. We also see similar things like Intel CVAT is already very widely used. So they're already supporting a lot through the Intel's platform. And so bringing those two on, those are the two like big examples of these types of jobs that we've announced that will start to be posting on to the broader community across more of the public networks. And you know, so I think with regards to like what we have announced so far, those are two really strong platforms that we've been working with. There is another thing that we've been doing behind the scenes, and we are seeing some additional collaborations and things that you know, we've been told are valuable to the crypto and the blockchain communities, in terms of the types of APIs that we're seeing excitement from third parties and applications that are excited to plug in and utilize the protocol. That hasn't been something that we've announced yet.
Okay, we'll hold off. Save that announcement. Okay, it's going to be exciting. So, and I think what I'm hearing there is also like there's a lot happening. Like there's already just so many big categories that are already being worked on, and it's just exciting to see, those like really evolve and bloom and come into fruition, right? And then you'll do exciting announcements later. That's the fun thing about announcements. We already had one today. We can't have two today. All right. Okay. And hey, a quick reminder, we're kind of, I think, working through the majority of these questions. If anyone has another one, please add to the questions tab on the upper right. Okay. One thing, Lonzo, let's talk about something just more broadly, not directly related to human protocol or scaling. Let's talk about, like, I think it's interesting for people to understand the breadth and like size of this problem. So if you think about being able to, make sense of data in the business world, right? Like, you come from healthcare. Healthcare is one massive industry, but how big is this problem even just in healthcare alone?
Yeah, so in healthcare, this was an enormous problem that we were seeing. Yeah, sorry. I think someone just opened my hotel door. I had my do not disturb on. Someone seems to have come in anyway.
Yeah.
I apologize for that.
No worries. This is, hey, by the way, for everyone watching, this is like, appreciate this. This is all part of like work time during COVID, and we're like all in weird places working.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, no one's coming.
Yeah, so when we look at different markets and different things, like in the healthcare data market, it's really significant. So I think I mentioned that the company that I was working on before, what they were addressing in the problem space, they were working on unstructured data labeling in healthcare. We ended up merging with another company that had one of the largest repositories of healthcare data in the United States, an organization called SciAx. And then earlier today, it was announced that they were merging with another company that did structured data analysis. And I believe the valuation they announced for that was $7 billion. So it was a very sizable, if you're looking at just that healthcare data labeling and understanding and transfer space, that one area was quite big. In terms of other things that, I've done research on or like looked at or I'm interested in personally, the global market for translation is super interesting. What we found there is that like 1 billion people in very fast growing economies, they don't have instant translation that works for them. And that like 5 out of 6 of the new internet users are coming from areas outside of North America and Europe. I believe when you look at the total available market, just for the estimated market for global translation, it's something like $56 billion. So it's a very sizable market, looking into tools to help support those companies that are addressing these problems or applications that are addressing these problems. If you look at the data annotation tools market and all of this AI, there are other companies in the space that are kind of traditional companies as opposed to like blockchain type solutions that offer kind of similar things. Those are significant size organizations and companies. For example, there is a company that offers some similar APIs to some of the ones that we already offer, and that have been things that we have that have been being developed by partner applications, and that are things that we're seeing as uses and that we're hearing as uses, potential uses, or designed uses for the protocol and the infrastructure. And that company or organization that's offering some of those, they also have, a multi-billion-dollar valuation as well. And then if you actually look at like the data annotation tools, just like the tooling market, I think, that one also has a very significant, application. Other things that we're seeing, which was pretty interesting, was, looking more at things like prediction markets. So what I didn't know about prediction markets was I thought it was just betting, right? But it's actually not. What's kind of neat is that these are actually things that people use to understand and survey and like work with their populations. And for example, like if I'm a politician and I want to figure out what my population might actually want, I might actually ask for a prediction market. I might ask for someone to predict something for me. And it might be nice if it was possible for me to ask like a huge population, or to say, maybe I want targeting tools. So maybe I only want to ask people who are Spanish speakers, or maybe I want to ask people who, live in one region or another region, because I'm curious in terms of like whether these people agree on something. And I did some research into that. And again, all these are just like my own personal opinions. This is things that I have, maybe just looked at, but that was also like a pretty interestingly sizable market. I think we looked at that one, and it was expected to reach like almost $60 billion market this year. And again, none of these figures are us. I'm just talking about use cases that I've researched into or looked into, and like why they might be use cases or groups that we'd be curious to partner with, or like the types of third-party applications, which I think are cool.
Yeah. So, what you mentioned, by the way, that great, phenomenal answer. I think there's a lot there. One interesting piece of that that got me thinking, like, well, hey, why do we need incentive mechanisms around this? So it's a really interesting story about Google Translate. So Google Translate was training itself by having people, going websites in other languages, people literally translating them, and then Google website was learning off these translations. What happened, it turned into a recursive problem where people would use Google Translate to translate, and no one ever did the base translation. So Google Translate couldn't ever learn. It was like learning on itself, this circular thing, instead of having humans go and to give input and then learn. Humans give input, learn. And there was no incentive structure. People would just, and so having a marketplace dynamic, I think, is really exciting for all of these categories. Otherwise, you get like these recursive patterns that break the learning cycle.
I know that I'm very excited for the work that we've been doing and for the work that we have planned. I think it's really cool, but
So I think, and Lons, I think this as we're coming here to the end, good. I think the last question is, where can the audience follow you and Harry and Human Protocol? And two-part question. The other thing is just anything else you just want to say. We've got a lot of people like listening now, and also we'll be listening later. Like any other words or thoughts, please. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so we've got, like I said, a whole bunch of resources at humanprotocol.org. There's more things that we have planned to be going there. If you want to go, we also have some short links, hmt.ai, just to make it easier and shorter and easier to share. And then we also, as Harry mentioned, we've launched the first thing that we're putting out from labs at labs.humanprotocol.org. And so you can visit labs.humanprotocol.org. You can check us out on Twitter if you are interested in getting involved. On the GitHub is on our website. That's a great way to get involved. Harry's put out a ton of really neat developer resources on web. And there are additional things that we have kind of planned and in the works. So did I miss anything?
No, great. How about both of you on Twitter? Are you?
I'm at Lonnie Rae.
Okay. And Harry, are you?
I'm at _Harjot. It's going to be very complicated spelling my name. So if you just go to the Scales announcement tweet, my link is there.
All right. Okay, good. Great. Well, hey, I'm seeing some comments. People, hey, for the people wanting to hear about Scale today, please, we're going to go deep in other sessions. We were really here to highlight Human Protocol, but also it was nice to be able to talk about Scale's integration and support, and really we're excited. The Scale community is incredibly excited to support the efforts of Human Protocol, and just a lot of exciting stuff to come. So, and thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. It's been fun. And until next time, thank you.
Bye. Thank you for having us.
Bye, guys. Thank you.